Hi guys, welcome back to part 3 of AliBaba and the 40 Thieves. Okay, if you guys have been following part 1 and part 2, the stories, you know what has happened. And the point we are at the story is where AliBaba tells Kasim's wife about Kasim's death, and now they need to go about in a very smart way so people don't start to suspect what happened to Kasim and how he suddenly died. So, what do they do next? Well, first, Maryam, the housemaid, the really clever girl, she goes to the apothecary or the pharmacy in their town, while AliBaba goes back home to put away his donkeys. At the pharmacy, Maryam asks for medicine for someone who's not been eating a lot for the past few days. The pharmacist, everybody, it's a small town, everybody knows each other. And the pharmacist asks, "Oh, why, Maryam? Who's so sick in your household that they're not eating?" And then Maryam says to the pharmacist, "Oh, it is my master. He's not been feeling good these past few days, and I fear for his life if he can't eat anymore, something soon. He's really taking a turn." Then Maryam makes up the story because she obviously wanted to send this image that, Kasim is sick. And if people start to hear that and words start to spread, it's not so much of a shock that then suddenly he dies, right? So, yes. So then basically, and also they didn't want to get in trouble with the cops. So people would suspect foul play and somebody would call on them. So this is how they were managing the situation. A day later, Maryam goes back again to the pharmacy and asks for more serious medication for someone who's fighting for their life. Maybe a day later or a few days later. This is what they do. And the pharmacist, after he gives her something strong and a painkiller or something, and she says to the pharmacist, "I really hope this can ease my master's pain because he looks like he's not going to be able to make it. He looks in a very rough condition." And after the visit to the pharmacy, what she does is she pays a visit a few days later to the town tailor. The tailor was named Amar. By this time, when she went to see Tailor Amar, she wore a veil to cover her face so that she is not identified. Small town, everybody knows what everybody looks like, apparently. Okay, so the Taylor Amar was known for his skill in making shrouds and pretty much anything, but he's able to handle large size projects. He was very good at that. So when she entered into this tailor's store, she hands him a gold coin. Again, remember, she's veiled, so the tailor doesn't know who she is. And she says to Tailor Amar, "I need you to come with me blindfolded." Amar refused blankly at this strange request. Then she hands over a gold coin to Tailor Amar and urges his company. Enticed by the money, Amar consents and she ties a cloth over his eyes with great care so that he wouldn't be able to see anything. Then she took him by hand and led him to her employer's house. She takes him inside, again by hand, still blindfolded, to a dark room where Kasim's body laid. So all the windows were closed. It's very hard to see. And she then, unfolds the blindfold and she directs him to now sew together the parts of Kasim to make his body whole and make a shroud to cover his whole body. She said, "Please do as I say and you will be rewarded another gold coin for your services." Amar was obviously a little bit spooked out at having to sew together a body back into its pieces, but he does so directed and gets his final payment. Maryam then puts the blindfold back on Amar and brings him back to his store where she picked him up from. Then she rushes back home to get the body to look ready for the local religious figure to come and recite some funeral prayers over Kasim's body. So, I mean, the whole point of stitching together this body is that if it was in parts, that would raise a lot of suspicion. So they wanted to make him look like a full body and, made him cover his body with the shroud. So everything looks kind of in the ordinary. After the religious figure comes and the funeral prayer is done, the neighbors help carry the body and a funeral procession follows to the graveyard. People in their community came over to their house to give their condolences to Kasim's wife, and things looked pretty ordinary, and everybody were sad that Kasim fell ill, and no one suspected a thing. Everything started to normalize after a few days. And after a couple of weeks, Kasim moved back to be closer to her aging parents in another city, where all but one of her sons also lived, and they worked as merchants. Her one adult son, Jassim, named after his grandfather, I guess, her son Jassim remained in this city to handle Kasim's merchant business here, and AliBaba also ended up buying a majority stake in Kasim's business from Kasim's wife. She also sold her house to AliBaba for a very favorable price, and she left. And so AliBaba and his wife moved into this much bigger house next door. Upon Kasim's wife's departure, AliBaba also took Maryam and another boy who worked in their household, Ahmed, and they who were previously working for Kasim's household, and now they became AliBaba's employees instead. So things were going well now. I mean, things were going back to normal. Well, for AliBaba, at least, finally his fate started to become better. He started to be known as a merchant around town, and as, someone who's gaining wealth. Like people didn't, it wasn't something out of the ordinary. Like his brother died, and so he bought the business. So wealth kind of stayed in the family sometimes. So gone were the days for AliBaba where he would go in the forest foraging for things. And, while people could see that AliBaba's wealth is growing, he still lived modestly, not to raise any suspicion for his exponential wealth. Like, where could he have gotten so much? So he was still pretty modest. And all the while this was happening, let's see what was going on with the 40 thieves. Okay. So when they returned back to the cave after a few days later, these thieves, they were surprised that Kasim's body was missing. It was no longer hanging as they had put in the cave. They also took note that some of the treasure was missing too. The leader of these thieves calls out to his entourage, "Oh men, we have a problem on our hands. It is evident that someone has chanced upon our treasure. We must protect our generational wealth that our forefathers have entrusted upon us. Otherwise, we will be at a severe loss over time." All the horsemen roared in anger and agreement. Then the leader called out, "Who amongst us, sharp of wit, will go out to investigate this horrible blunder that has taken place?" Then one of the robbers, who was known for his intelligence, stepped forward for the task. He says, "Oh, chief, allow me this opportunity and I will come back successful. Otherwise, you can have my head if I fail." The leader of the thieves agreed to this bandit. Proudly, this bandit dressed up in merchant clothes and collected some items from the treasure to sell. He bade goodbye to the rest of the thieves as he set out to the nearby town. There is a lot of different towns around that jungle, not just the one that AliBaba and Kasim lived. So there were, let's say, half a dozen or so around. So while he set out to the nearby town, that one bandit, the rest of the thieves got on their way to collect more treasure and, rob more people. After a few days of being on the road and no luck of any leads, the initial thief that set out to investigate ended up finally in the same town as Kasim and AliBaba. There, he set up shop before dawn in the marketplace. The only other store that was open at that time was of Tailor Ammar's, the same guy, remember, who stitched up the body of Kasim. So there, Tailor Ammar was working away, sewing some clothes in very dim light. As you can imagine, before dawn, there's barely just any moonlight, very dark. So the thief approaches him and marvels at how he was able to sew without the sun even being up. Then Taylor Amar says, "You must be new around here. Don't be fooled by my age. Just the other day, I sewed together parts of a body in a pitch black room." The bandit was intrigued at this statement. What does this mean? Could this be the same dead body that they left back in the cave? He was just, now his mind was racing. He says to the tailor, "What an impossible thing to say. Surely people don't pay you to stitch dead bodies around here." The tailor says, "Never you mind. I'm done answering questions." And then he goes back to sewing his clothes. Then the thief, this is a clue, finally a lead. This could mean something. He takes out from his pocket a gold coin and puts forward to the tailor. "Please tell me. I'm intrigued," he urges the tailor. The tailor, in his greed, is amazed at how all these gold coins keep appearing to him lately. The thief then asks him if he can say more. Then the tailor says, "The other day, some woman, in a veil comes to me and asks me the strange request of blindfolding me and taking me somewhere." He tells him this whole story to the thief. And then the thief asks him, "Could you show me where this house was, where you went?" And then he offers him another gold coin. The tailor pockets the gold coin and says, "I have not seen that house with my own eyes," because of the blindfold. And then the bandit seemed disappointed and dejected at this news that he might not be able to find this house because this guy was blindfolded. But then Taylor Amar, just as shrewd as he was and realized how much this guy wanted to know the whereabouts of this household, he continues to say to the thief, "However, my memory is even more stronger than my eyesight. If you blindfold me similar to that woman, I can trace my steps and the turns that I took to that house. But I'm only willing to do this for you for another 5 gold coins." The bandit quickly agrees and, gives him the coins and puts a blindfold on the tailor, and they set out. After walking through the town a little bit, lo and behold, the tailor definitely brings him to the same house of which previously owned by Kasim, which now belongs to AliBaba. The thief thanked the tailor for bringing him here and, asked him, "Are you sure?" And the tailor says, "My memory will never fail me." And then the thief finds a piece of chalk or something lying around, and he marks the wooden door of AliBaba's house with a giant X. And then he did that because he could be able to identify this house among the rest of the houses which looked pretty similar in that neighborhood. So he brings back the tailor, still blindfolded, back to his shop. And then he packs up his own shop, this thief, and races towards the rest of the bandits to give them the good news of his findings. And so what happens next? Is this a good place to stop, or should I keep going? Okay, maybe we'll keep going a little bit more, and then we're going to have to stop. Okay, so in the meanwhile, so when the thief is setting out to go find his other thief friends, in the meanwhile, Maryam, the maid who was out on an early morning errand, comes to see that her employer's house is marked with this ominous white X on the door. She thought this was definitely strange and gave her a bad feeling. And with her street smarts and the sharp thinking that she had, she knew that this couldn't have been a positive appearance. She suspected that someone might be targeting her employer, AliBaba. So she took the same piece of chalk that was lying around and went around marking all of the doors in the entire neighborhood with the same X, all the doors. So that was something that she thought, okay, this way that her employer's house could not be identified or singled out. Then when all the thieves gathered upon this good news, they decided to set out to the town later in the night in the darkness where nobody would notice them coming, and that they would kill the people of that household because they knew about the secret treasure and the magical cave. So the bandits who disguised well, the one bandit who disguised himself as a merchant earlier, he led the caravan of the thieves to AliBaba's house. Upon getting there, he was excited to show off his hard work and his smart thinking, where he marked the house with an X. When they got there, they all noticed immediately that every single house in this neighborhood was marked with the same X. The chief of the thieves was not impressed. He was also not known to be forgiving. So, as a punishment and to make him an example for wasting everybody's time, the bandit was immediately executed when they returned back to their hideout. Now, there only remained 39 thieves, and the leader then at their hideout calls out to all of his constituent thieves, who will now be more intelligent and more skillful than the previous fellow of ours, in order to search out for our enemy's house. To that one there will be a significant reward waiting. Another brave thief steps forward for the task. He disguises himself as a merchant, same way, and he took some treasures from the treasure, stash, and some clothing and pots and things like that to sell, and he sets out to the same town. The second thief follows in the same footsteps as the first. He found Taylor Amar, did the exact same thing, blindfolded him, offered him some more gold, and identified AliBaba's house. This time, this thief, thinking he was much smarter, marked the house with a red piece of chalk. Okay, something that I guess was common in that area to find. So, content with his intelligence, he sets out to the hideout to inform the rest of the bandits. And separately, this Taylor is just raking in all these gold coins, and he's loving it that he just keeps coming across all these gold coins and people wanting to know whereabouts of this house. Anyway, so back to the thieves. The thieves were excited now. They finally found the house. And at the darkness of the night, they set out to come into the same neighborhood. And lo and behold, what do they find? All the doors are now marked in red chalk the same way. This was all thanks to Maryam, the shrewd housemaid. Upon seeing an ominous red on her employer's door that day, she went around the whole neighborhood marking everybody else's door in red so as to not be singled out or identified. So the second thief faced the same fate as the first one. He was executed. Frustrated by the incompetence of his thieves, the commander of the thieves determined that he would set out for the task himself. So what does he do differently than his other thieves? This leader, what does he do? How does he find AliBaba's home? That, I think we have to save for the next day. Sorry, guys, this is where we have to stop. The story is just gets more and more interesting as we go. Believe me, there's a lot more interest to come. So be patient, and hopefully you'll find it very interesting going forward. I think maybe we can finish it off in the next part. All right, well, you guys get some sleep. Don't stay up too late, and can't wait to talk to you next. Bye-bye.